There's something timeless about the roar of a motorcycle cutting through the silver screen. From the silent era to the action blockbusters of today, bikes have symbolized freedom, rebellion, and sometimes pure chaos. But how well has Hollywood actually captured motorcycle culture? Let's throw a leg over and ride through cinema history on another Bleek Rides. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Bleek Rides. In the 1910s and 20s, motorcycles weren't the symbols of rebellion yet, but they were the iPhones of the day. Shiny new tech that captured imaginations. And films like Love, Speed, and Thrills showed bikes, mostly as comic props or romantic getaway vehicles. The bikes were mechanical marvels. The Triumph Model H, Harley's Model J, the mighty Henderson 4, these were sturdy, loud, and just dangerous enough to make them irresistible. Since the invention of Daimler's Right Wagon in 1885, and bikes like the Harley and the Indian capturing the heart of America, there was a bridge created as well that led right to the early days of silent cinema, where you had directors trying to find a way to bring more action to their story. And motorcycles were a natural fit for those visual gags and chases. The aforementioned films like A Motorcycle Elopement or Love, Speed, and Thrills, which had the first depiction of the sidecar in cinema, it was making that leap, bringing them into the hearts and minds of the American consumer. Motorcycles weren't just for daredevils. That's not how they were marketed to begin with. They were marketed to families. Nothing says fun like grabbing the whole gang, jumping on your bike and sidecar, and going for an afternoon ride. By the 1930s, motorcycles represented the new age of speed, mobility, and breaking tradition. Movies had used bikes to represent fast living, lovers eloping, rebels escaping social norms. But this was also at a time it was still widely practiced to take trains places, or to even ride horseback from town to town. In contrast to horses, bikes were mechanical horses of the new century. These early motorcycles being used in stage shows and in the cinema, like the Triumph or the Harley, were the pinnacle of innovation. Things like electric lighting, or even a 3-speed gearbox. These were huge steps forward in motor technology. Luxury, even. There was mixed feelings in society, though. There was a wonder at speed versus sort of a fear of recklessness. Law enforcement had to contend with young road scorchers, tearing it up, burning it down. Stereotypes had already begun emerging. Early motorcycle cops were both heroes and villains in cinema.
Meet the guys who know their motors, and the gals who know their guys.
When you say get acquainted, you really mean it, don't you?
Starring pretty Ann Nealand, courageous Steve Terrell, dangerous John Ashley, and laugh-loaded Carl Schweitzer. Teenage sicklehounds going all out for thrills. Laughing at danger, playing at love, the kind of playing that leads to plenty trouble.
Look, here's how I forgot it.
Strong young men, fighting with all the fierce passions of grown men.
I'm taking you on tomorrow, kid. We're gonna match guts, and one of us is gonna walk away the winner.
America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I ask the Congress declare
In 1945, after America's entrance into the war ended. The Third Reich was crushed, and once the war was over, the soldiers came home. And some of them, well, they weren't quite ready to park in the suburbs and join the neighborhood watch. No. While abroad, they found something better. Something loud. Something dangerous. Something called freedom. In the post-war of America, we had the birth of the biker outlaw.
Hiya, sweetheart. Hey, what are you doing in this miserable gully, Johnny Malone?
Yes, post-World War II America was a land divided on the surface. It was booming, though. GI Bills, new homes, two-car garages. But underneath that perfect lawn and picket fence, a generation of men wrestled with boredom, anger, and a taste of violence they couldn't quite shake. Returning veterans sought thrills and adrenaline, leading to the rise of outlaw motorcycle clubs like the Hells Angels, which was founded in 1948. Motorcycles became a symbol of independence and defiance. The cultural shift began to happen, from heroes to hellraisers.
That's better, Johnny.
And with the triumphant reinvigoration of interest from Hollywood, wanting to capture the cultural changes, enter The Wild One. It wasn't just a movie, it was a line drawn in the sand. Marlon Brando as Johnny Strabler, his leather cap, his Triumph Thunderbird 6T, and his famous quote, "What are you rebelling against, Johnny? What do you got?" Brando's Triumph versus a modern Triumph Bonneville. I mean, Brando was a real-life motorcycle enthusiast. He insisted on riding his own 1950s Triumph in the movie. This was unheard of at the time. The props department normally handled vehicles. Brando wasn't just playing a biker. He was one. And thus, kind of broke a wall in bringing a sense of realism, a sense of authenticity to the silver screen. Well, here's the thing. Not every biker was a rebel without a cause. The Hollister riots in 1947, kind of overhyped by Life magazine. A staged photograph, rider on a Harley, beer bottles piled around, fueled the myth of the outlaw biker. Less than 50 arrests, mostly drunk and disorderly. No town taken over. But that didn't stop Hollywood. Hollywood wasn't going to let a good story go. And it wasn't going to let some facts get in the way either. And the public was ready for a villain on two wheels.
There's a new, out-of-the-world Harley-Davidson for every rider. A soft-riding, slick-riding, years-ahead Harley-Davidson for every purpose. Harley-Davidson gives you the glide ride. The glad ride. Whether you ride for pay and profit, for policing and public protection,
Underneath the noise, there were real machines that became icons of a generation. And bikes like the 650cc parallel twin-engine Triumph Thunderbird, which was smooth, powerful, and lighter than the American bikes, became the default cool guy bike, thanks to Brando. Harley-Davidson's the Knucklehead, which lasted from 36 to 47, a 61 cubic inch V-twin, famous for its durability and smooth power delivery. And even Indian's Chief from the 1940s, a 1200cc torque monster, big luxury bike, was very popular with early motorcycle clubs. It wasn't just the bikes, it was the uniform. Leather jackets, engineer boots, greased hair. You weren't just riding the bike, you were making a statement. And the 1950s outlaw cinema, well, it backed that up. Of the things Hollywood got right, it often showed real riders and real bikes. Captured the restlessness, the untamed spirit. And amongst the things it got wrong, it painted all bikers as violent, antisocial criminals. And that overshadowed many family-friendly clubs and weekend riders. There's an old saying from the AMA, the American Motorcycle Association, about it's only the 1% that are that criminal element. Everybody else is a law-abiding, upstanding rider. But the stigma persisted, and the culture grew around it, embracing it, often leaning in. On both sides, the weekend rider would wear a vest. The hardcore 1%er would also wear a vest. One just a little more patched up than the other. Obviously, the footage above is us seeing the terrifying outlaw committing his felonies with no regard for others' safety or care. Tie them up and take their money. And it's interesting to know that somewhere between Hollywood lenses and the American highways, a different kind of story was being written. Not on film, not on studio lots, but on asphalt. The Hells Angels weren't a script. They were real, veterans and wanderers. These were men who had seen the world burn and didn't want to come back inside. Founded in 1948, Fontana, California, with a belief structure founded on brotherhood over conformity, loyalty over the law. Were they criminals? Some were. Were they misunderstood? I'm sure all of them. They didn't ask for society's approval. They carved out their own. Motorcycle clubs weren't just gangs, they were families. For some, the only ones they had left. While Hollywood sold rebellion to the masses, the Angels lived it. Good, bad, and everything in between. As the engines roared louder, so did the cultural clash. The motorcycle wasn't just a machine anymore. It was a middle finger to polite society. And cinema would never look at bikes or bikers the same way again. Next stop, the 1960s and 70s, where freedom met fury on the open road. If a conversation is to be had, if, let's say, you want to talk about motorcycles in cinema, you have to talk about Steve McQueen, the king of cool, the original outlaw. Based on a real World War II prison break, Steve McQueen personally insisted the character ride a motorcycle. And in this famous chase scene, even though no real escapee actually did, there's a bike. A bike heavily disguised as a 1962 Triumph TR6 trophy, made to look like a German BMW. McQueen did almost all of his own riding. Insurance barred him from doing the iconic barbed wire fence jump. His best friend and racing buddy Bud Ekins performed that stunt. But if you look real close, you'll spot Steve chasing himself. That's right, he actually played both the German pursuer and the escaping American. But no one else could ride like him. Why The Great Escape mattered so much? It redefined motorcycles on the screen, from outlaw to a hero's tool of freedom. McQueen's riding wasn't choreographed or fake. It was skilled, wild, athletic, and changed the public perception. Motorcycles now equal independence.
Wo willst du denn hin? Zeig mir mal deinen Ausweis. Hey!
Off-screen, McQueen wasn't just playing tough. He was tough. A real rider. He had competed in the International 6-Day Trials, the Motorcycle Olympics, if you will. He raced the brutal Baja 1000 desert race. He personally owned hundreds of bikes, Triumphs, Husqvarnas, Hondas, Harley-Davidsons. And let me give you some even deeper backstory into this man, Steve McQueen. When he raced the Baja 1000, he did it in disguise and under a fake name, so he could avoid press and concentrate on the race. Man was the real deal, a genuine article. Movies like this made motorcycles aspirational for the American middle class. Motorcycles became cool, athletic, and not just gang stuff. Motorcycle sales in the U.S. grew 43% between 62 and 65. That's huge. In a world of polished Hollywood heroes, McQueen was the real deal. And for the first time, the motorcycle was the good guy's ride. Really, still rather in the early days. There's a moment within crack in time when motorcycles stopped being just machines and became also statements. And that moment was Easy Rider, 1969. 2 wheels, a dream, and a death wish. Before Easy Rider, motorcycles and movies were still shackled to cliches. Rebels without causes, heroes, outlaws snarling at diner waitresses, brawls in sleepy towns. But Easy Rider wasn't about picking fights. It wasn't about picking anything other than freedom over everything else, even life. Was this a film about real life or a movie for entertainment? Peter Fonda wasn't just acting. He helped design, customize, and personally maintain the bikes during the filming. 4 bikes were built total. 2 of the Captain America bikes, 2 of the Billy bikes, and 1 each was reserved for the stuntman. Tragically, only 1 Captain America bike survived filming, and even that was later stolen from Danny Haggerty's garage. You see, these 2 bikes, they're not just props. They were the movie. Hand-built Harleys, chopped and stretched by real hands, not by art directors. And while a lot of the time Hollywood is mostly playing dress-up, that's not the case here. Peter Fonda grew up around motorcycles, and it really shows in the film. Grandfather to Captain America in design, he insisted the chopper should fly with symbolism. He rode that bike himself across rough desert terrain, not relying on stunt doubles for anything outside the major wipeouts. Dennis Hopper was a true gearhead, obsessed with mechanics. He rode off-set almost as much as on. Choppers were already bubbling underground. Vietnam vets and grease monkeys and tinkerers loved them. Easy Rider gave the movement a face and a voice. And the Captain America bike became the Mona Lisa of the chopper world. After Easy Rider, it wasn't about the biggest engine anymore. It was about expression, building a machine that looked like nobody else's. Freedom and steel. You can draw a line straight and unbroken from from Peter Fonda's gas tank to every chopper you ever loved. Whether it was Billy Lane, his bare-knuckle builder and known for radical fame fabrication, to the philosopher, Indian Larry. Ride what you build, wild-styled bikes that look like hand-forged from a dream. Or the infamous Jesse James, the West Coast Choppers, who blended the old-school ethos with modern engineering. Chopper culture is its very own genre, as unique as each rider and as individual as an artist's great works. Every chopper epitomizes a couple of things: fun, freedom, and a minimalist approach to the world. In the latter half of the 1960s, films like the one shown here, The Undertaker and His Pals, began to slowly dot the landscape. Motorcycles still used as comedic tools or something to just have on the screen, but were now also an accompaniment to a villain, to a gang of bad guys. MC culture had forged the way for the motorcycle horror subgenre. And if the late 60s hadn't opened the door enough, the 1970s cemented it. Films like Werewolves on Wheels, I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle, and Mania made a shift in the portrayal of bikers from counterculture anti-heroes to figures of horror and the macabre.
With superhuman powers, unleashing an unholy reign of terror that holds an entire community in the grip of psychomania.
Movies like Mania stand out as a cult classic in the biker horror subgenre. This film follows a British motorcycle gang, the Living Dead, who make a pact with the devil to achieve immortality. Their return from the grave leads to a series of surreal and eerie events, blending the rebellious spirit of the biker and its culture with the elements of supernatural horror. And then, my personal favorite.
Don't miss the most unusual and exciting horror motorcycle film yet made.
I come to offer you youth and fresh blood.
Hey, we all know how we're going to die, baby. We're going to crash and burn.
Werewolves on Wheels, starring Steve Oliver and Severn Darden. The story of a motorcycle gang who ride into a new kind of hell. They ride wild, play hard, and fight brutal.
I write your unholy name thrice in blood.
Cry of Satan, you are one with them. Cry of Satan, you are one with them. Cry of Satan.
Werewolves on Wheels, the most eerie, the most chilling, the most terrifying motorcycle horror film ever made. Their survival was the torch, as one by one they became terrifying, bloodthirsty werewolves on wheels.
Werewolves on Wheels mashed together biker rebellion and satanic horror in a way no one saw coming, and no one could forget. I mean, the title alone tells you everything you need to know, yet somehow still doesn't prepare you. By the time the 1980s rolled around, the biker film had taken its boots off, cracked a light beer, and settled into the background of pop culture. The wild one-percenter-centered stories of the 1960s and 70s had kind of run its course. People weren't buying tickets to see outlaws anymore. They're showing up for time travel, aliens, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and George Carlin. Motorcycles were still there, growling in the background, but they weren't the story anymore. They became accessories, set pieces, extension of a character's coolness, not their core. I mean, some notable exceptions were Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, featuring some brutal post-apocalyptic biker gangs and cobbled-together desert machines. The bikers in Road Warrior weren't rebels, they were straight-up road pirates in bondage gear. Wild, savage, and unforgettable. And Purple Rain, with Prince's customized Honda CM 400A, stole just as many hearts as his riffs. And in '88, another film very close to my heart hit the scene. Do I categorize this as a biker movie? Kind of, yes. But it was so much more. Enter Akira.
Neo Tokyo is about to explode.
Directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, adopted from his own manga series. For many, Akira was their first glimpse at what we'd later call anime. Not Saturday morning cartoons, but full-length, high-stakes, cinematic storytelling. Akira wasn't cute, it wasn't dubbed with wisecracking sidekicks. It was a punk rock opera in 24 frames per second, and leading the charge was a motorcycle. Kaneda's bike isn't just a vehicle, it's a symbol. Red like blood, low to the ground like a beast ready to strike. It's sleek, futuristic, but rugged. A rebel's machine. One part Ferrari, one part tank, all attitude. I mean, talk about an icon. There was no real bike like Kaneda's, so naturally, people tried to build it. And 35 years later, they're still trying. Akira didn't just blow the minds of anime fans. It rewired the brains of filmmakers, designers, and bike builders around the globe. It would later go on to be influential in things like The Matrix, Inception, and Cyberpunk 2077. It sparked a wave of bike-centric sci-fi and raised the bar for animation quality. No shortcuts. Every frame, hand-drawn. It brought existential depth and nihilistic beauty to the action genre. I mean, it was Blade Runner with more blood, Star Wars with less hope, and it stuck. You know, some other cultural shout-outs might be like Bari Bari Densetsu, a motorcycle racing anime, which likely influenced Otomo's bike scene. You know, the Capsule Gang, biker club aesthetics. We've seen these in the modern streetwear of moto brands and pop cultural design. Akira means something different to every rider who sees it. For some, it's style. For others, it's the rage. For me, it was that moment I realized that a motorcycle could be a myth. Kaneda's bike wasn't built to exist in our world, and yet it does. In the end, Akira didn't predict the future. It became the future. And Kaneda's bike, it still rides ahead of us, just out of reach. I'm a content creator. Use an editor, I ride. And I'm wanted for telling you about the 90s. So let's go. If the 90s were going for reintroducing biker films, well then, Brian Bosworth's Joe Huff, an Alabama cop infiltrating a white supremacist biker gang, yeah, he kicks the door in with combat boots and a mullet. The gang, in some parts modeled after its real-world counterparts, 1% MCs like the Outlaws or the Angels. This film's loud, brutal, and sweaty. Stone Cold didn't aim to tell you a story, it aimed to punch one through your windshield. Painting biker gangs as potential domestic terrorists, which was a growing fear in the 90s. A lot of over-the-top violence, which mirrored the shift in cinema, post-Die Hard. Today, this film has a cult-like status, with its absurdity and quotability. And let's get back to what our previous films had. Did Bosworth ride? Lightly. Stunt riders handled most of the riding. Bosworth was brought in for muscle, not motorcycle know-how. This film holds a special place in the films of the 90s. It brought to life the grittiness of MC life, or what it could be, what people thought it was. It may have been one of the forebearers of inspiration for Kurt Sutter's The Sons of Anarchy. The film left its mark, and so will this next one. Enter Mickey Rourke. Icon of that generation. Harley-Davidson and the Marlboro Man wasn't made to win awards. It was made for the misfits amongst us. For the lone wolves, for the guys who live by a code, even if the world stopped writing in that language years ago. At the time, it was set in the distant future of 1996. Hey, the 90s had dreams. Harley, Rourke's character, and the Marlboro Man, Don Johnson, are aging outlaws in a world turning corporate and cold. Their crew, a lovable ragtag family of hustlers and brawlers who've set out to rob a bank and save their favorite bar. What they end up stealing is a truckload of futuristic drugs, landing them in a war with a private security force. It's incredible. Harley isn't just a biker, he's a Ronin, a samurai without a master wandering the wreckage of his time.
Where you heading?
Nowhere special.
Come on, I'll take you there.
Marlboro and his foil, all the charm and street wisdom, but deeply loyal. Together, they're not just buddies on a heist. They're displaced men, searching for meaning in a world that sold out and paved over the values they were raised on. There's a quiet tragedy in Harley. He doesn't fight for glory, he fights to keep something from being taken away. Something small, something sacred. A bar, a friend, a memory of who they used to be. Their crew is full of misfits. A wounded ex-bouncer, a techie, a drug-addicted sharpshooter. They're not heroes, but they are the only shot at redemption each other's got. In a world where the law serves corporations and freedom is for sale, these outlaws found the only real thing left: each other. This film set into motion a cult-like status for the FXR and its legacy. The film bombed at box office. The critics didn't get it, but bikers did, especially FXR riders. The Harley used in the film became legendary. Many claim this movie sparked their lifelong obsession with that frame. This movie, it was a vibe, a middle finger to conformity, a love letter to loyalty, and a story that said, even if we lose, we're going out together.
Let me ask you a question. Shoot. That's a hell of an idea.
And now we're to this real gem. I don't want to spend much time on this one. In 1993, Charlie Sheen dares to ask the question, what if I was a biker? An actor best known for smirking through sitcoms, who then tried to convince us he's deep undercover in a violent outlaw motorcycle club, and we're to just play along. Charlie Sheen, in a quick plot summary, plays Dan Saxon, a troubled cop who goes undercover as Sid to infiltrate a violent outlaw biker gang. It's loosely based on a true story, and I emphasize loosely, like stretched out clutch cables on a bike nobody tuned. We see a transformation from square-jawed rookie to leather-draped anti-hero. It's supposed to be this emotional descent into moral gray areas, but really it just looks like Sheen had watched Stone Cold and thought, yeah, I can do that a bit softer and more pouty. I mean, let's be honest, his writing is minimal. It's very stiff and clearly done with tight shots. The helmetless, shirtless, and dripping in trying too hard. From the first scene to the last. At one point, he tries to intimidate a rival biker with a slow stare and a gravelly monologue. I mean, Tonya Harding's personal security guard should have been let loose on this one. Its only redeeming factor, and only believable factor, is Michael Madsen. Let's move on. In 2003, a film called Biker Boyz brought us the real street scene on film. Biker Boyz was the first time many people saw the real black motorcycle street culture on the screen. It wasn't about bar fights or brooding white guys on Harleys. This was family, this was turf, and it was fast. Inspired by the real Southern California street riding crews, Lawrence Fishburne plays Smoke, the undisputed drag king. Derek Luke plays the rising star, Kid. Based in part on a 2000 New Times LA article about underground sport bike racing, this film has a cultural legacy. It shone light on an often overlooked corner of motorcycle culture, and included sport bikes. It influenced riding gear, fashion, leathers, club patches, and lids. It is beloved in the sport bike circles, even if critics didn't get it. This film holds its place as a notable mention in cinema and the history of motorcycles therein. The sport bike world is fast, full of hooligans, and often doing questionable things at questionable speeds. And if you love this film, well, I assume we're friends, 'cause I do too. It's fun, it's chippy, it's gritty, and it shows real life. Well, a film version anyway.
Are you done?
Get in, I'm driving.
Fuck the police. Is that a threat?
Some would refer to this 2004 gem as the pre-Fast and Furious and Physically Impossible. Torque wasn't a movie. It was an energy drink with a production budget. Directed by Joseph Kahn, a music icon, aimed to be the Fast and Furious on two wheels. It starred Martin Henderson, Ice Cube, and Adam Scott from one of my favorite shows, Severance. The plot, something about bikes, gangs, and government corruption, but who's counting? This film is visually bonkers. It's technically nonsense, and highlighted the flash and flare of sport bike culture. Loved, ironically, by gearheads for its unintentional comedy and brazen nonsense. And doing a way better job of showing us fun than Brian O'Connor's Stare and Drive. We get to see our lead drive a NASCAR while making out with his lady before hopping onto a motorcycle, switching positions, and taking off. I mean, come on. This is incredible, albeit completely absurd. In 2007, we'd see the entrance of supernatural biker mythology. Flaming skulls, flaming tires, flaming Nicolas Cage screaming into the void. When the 2000s said, you know what motorcycles need? More hellfire. We got Ghost Rider. And Nicolas Cage's unhinged persona brings it just enough to make it work. Cage plays the iconic Marvel Comics character Johnny Blaze, the daredevil stuntman cursed to become the devil's bounty hunter. He rides a flaming chopper that literally burns through asphalt and physics. Why it matters? This is one of the first modern comic book movies to feature a motorcycle. Common day now within the Marvel films, but at its time, a motorcycle was its core character trait. Blending stunt riding, horror, and comic book flair, this film took its place as a cult classic, especially among chopper riders who like their bikes with a little brimstone. Every once in a while, Hollywood gets it right. When the heart rides at full throttle. Motorcycles in cinema are usually loud, explosive, covered in chrome and fury. But every once in a while, the film slows down, strips away the noise, and tells the story of a rider. The World's Fastest Indian is one of those films. Damn, if it didn't bring a tear to my eye. The man, the machine, and the mission. Little analysis. This film's based on the true story of Burt Munro, a New Zealand motorcycle builder and racer. It's set in the 1960s, and the film follows his lifelong dream to take his heavily modified 1920 Indian Scout to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah to chase a land speed record. It was directed by Roger Donaldson, and it was starring Anthony Hopkins in one of his most underrated and human performances. The film is not about winning. It's about getting there. About pushing limits of machine, of time, and of yourself. When I tried to analyze this and understand why does this film hit so hard. Whether you're a rough and tumble biker, a weekend canyon carver, or a fan of old school Saturday night drag strips, this movie has something for you. Because it's not just about the bike. It's about the soul that built it. It shows the obsessive love of the tinkerers, those who measure success in tenths of an inch. This film captures the universal feeling of chasing something no one else understands. Every setback, the financials, the custom issues, the physical toll, is met with quiet resolve. You don't ride for the record books, you ride because you have to. And Burt, he got that. This film acts as a bridge through time. The World's Fastest Indian bridges eras that connect us. Modern riders with Bluetooth headsets to a man who raced on handmade pistons and hope. It's not just a period piece, it's a mirror showing every rider what it means to care deeply, to fail profoundly, and to ride because it feeds something inside of you. Wrap this one up. The roar of Burt's Indian over the flats. Man, this movie isn't fast. Well, parts of it are. It isn't loud, but it's true. And when Hollywood listens to real stories of real riders, something happens. And the World's Fastest Indian is proof of that.
Push me around. Don't insult me. Don't insult me. Money's never a problem. You listen to me. You just have to honor the correct price. You got that?
Wild Hogs, the middle-aged manifesto. Wild Hogs is what happens when Hollywood decides to ask, what if your dad finally bought that bike? And just went for it. It's a slapstick ride full of fart jokes, midlife crises, and more pleather than should legally be allowed. But somehow, it works. This film has a star-studded cast including Tim Allen, John Travolta, William H. Macy, and Martin Lawrence. Ray Liotta as a tough-as-nails antagonist. And yes, Lance Henriksen makes a badass return to biker cinema, this time riding in like he never left Stone Cold. Yeah, it's goofy, but under all the dad joke energy, Wild Hogs struck a nerve, because it reminded people, especially older riders, that you don't have to be cool to chase the wind. You just have to go. No matter who you are, what you've done, or how long it's been, everyone approaches bikes for the same reason. Healing, freedom, a taste of adventure, and the kind of brotherhood that makes the road the real destination. Quentin Tarantino, a man whose cineverse has reshaped film. From Pulp Fiction to Django, his name is synonymous with cool, with violence wrapped in rhythm and retro style. Hellride isn't one of his directed films, but his fingerprints are all over it. Produced under his Grindhouse banner, this one rides hard, fast, and dirty through scorched backroads of biker mythology. The plot on this one was written and directed and starring Larry Bishop, who also plays Pistolero. A vengeance-fueled tale about a biker hunting down the truth behind his mother's murder. This film features rival gangs, corrupted ex-friends, stolen women, bloody retribution, and more middle fingers than a Tool concert. It's Shakespeare if Shakespeare ran a meth lab and wrote a rigid frame shovelhead. This cast, this ensemble, Michael Madsen as the gent, finally in his biker groove, weathered and damn believable. Eric Balfour, Vinnie Jones, and Lenore Varela, all chewing scenery like it owes them money. And yes, the great himself, David Carradine. He slinks in like a scorpion in a gas tank, playing the deuce. A twisted villain with dusty gravitas. This isn't David Carradine from Kung Fu. This is David Carradine with dirt in his soul and death in his voice. Tarantino's influence, stylized carnage meets 70s cool. I mean, Hellride feels like an old Easy Rider reel got spliced with a lost anime storyboard and a spaghetti western soundtrack. It's hyper-stylized, saturated in sweat and sepia tones. Everyone talks like they're halfway through a tequila-soaked poem. And every shot is framed like a band poster you'd find in a burned-down bar. This one has a different cultural relevance. A dirty love letter to biker cinema. A grindhouse revivalist dream, mixing 70s biker tropes with postmodern flair. And it shows that the biker mythos is alive, even in the dustiest corners of cinema. It reminds us that revenge and rubber still make a damn fine story. Hellride isn't clean, it's not even particularly coherent, but it's got a soul. Dirty, sunburned, bourbon-splashed soul. Is it campy? Sure. Over the top? Absolutely. But it's a film about bikes. About brotherhood, betrayal, and burning down the past. And it's part of the Tarantino cinematic universe, which means it's cooler than it has any right to be. Round about the 2010s, motorcycles were no longer just accessories. They had become extensions of a character, symbols of their identity, tools for transformation, and in some cases, the emotional center of the story. The next 3 editions will all be sort of the rise of the real ones. Keanu Reeves is not just an actor who rides, he's a co-founder of Arch Motorcycles, a very premium motorcycle manufacturer who makes tailored-to-fit motorcycles. The John Wick films makes motorcycles part of the choreography, with real stunt work and careful costume design. The motorcycle sword fight in Chapter 3 pays direct homage to Akira, executed with actual writing, not just a green screen. Motorcycles in John Wick are weapons, expressions of style, and symbolic of Wick's isolated, monastic lifestyle. This one, if you've seen before, you'll know it's not a film. But The Walking Dead was never just TV either. And Daryl Dixon, he wasn't just a character. He became a symbol of survival, of brotherhood, and of what it means to keep moving forward on two wheels. This character changed the rules. Norman Reedus' Daryl Dixon wasn't in the original comic. Created specifically for the show, he became the breakout star. A fan favorite known for grit, loyalty, and quiet strength. A dirty vest, a silent stare, and a crossbow with attitude. Daryl didn't talk much, he didn't need to. His bike did half the talking for him. Daryl's first ride in the show was a 1971 Triumph Bonneville Chopper, complete with squirrel skin saddlebags. Yeah. In later seasons, he rides a custom rat bike, built from a Yamaha and Honda parts outfitted for scavenging and survival. No gloss, no polish. Just a raw machine stitched together from whatever was left after the world ended, and somehow it's perfect.
I'm through and through just a roamer. I love moving, hunting for places and moments, and every day has its...
And another real rider. Man, this one's close to home. Some people ride for speed, some for brotherhood. Jason Momoa, he rides for the story. On the Roam isn't just a motorcycle show. It's a love letter to old machines, to craftspeople, to the American back road, and to the soul of those who live by their hands. Jason is a lifelong motorcyclist and vintage motorcycle enthusiast and builder. He roams across the United States, visiting custom builders, native artists, tattooists, and blacksmiths, always on two wheels. Often on classic Harleys and vintage Indians. On the Roam hits different. It's slow burning, meditative, shot like a Terrence Malick film with a grease-stained lens. It mostly focuses on storytelling through craft and connection, and explores identity, tradition, and personal growth. The show definitely celebrates native heritage, environmental respect. This one, it's less about horsepower and more about heart power. This isn't a gearhead flex. It's kind of a pilgrimage. Riding is the ever-present, but never the only focus. The motorcycle is the vessel for connection and storytelling.
Lori Silvers for Channel 8 News.
Well, folks, we're coming towards the end. Before the capes, before the cosmic chaos, there were riders. Street level, vengeful, wired with pain and purpose, and almost always riding Harleys. Then we have the loner, the lone wolf, with the scruffy beard and claws. A new kind of hero for a new kind of rider. Or maybe hunting vampires and doing sick slides on your Ducati is what's for you. And still there's Johnny Blaze, backflipping a dirt bike with ease.
Whoa, look! Something new. You got it.
Ghost Rider I know we covered, but this scene in particular, what a throwback to the glory days of Evel Knievel, jumping anything and everything, showing us what it meant to live without fear. Then of course there's Captain America and the Star-Spangled Easy Rider. Across the first Avengers, Winter Soldier, and Age of Ultron films, Cap rides anything from a World War II WLA Liberator to a Street 750 to a live wire. A little bit of everything. He's the soldier who rides alone, the symbol of liberty on two wheels. Even when the war is over, he keeps moving, because the mission, well, it never really ends. Black Widow and the Ghost in the Machine. Age of Ultron sees Natasha Romanoff's dropped mid-air out of a Quinjet onto a Harley-Davidson Livewire. She performs high-speed tactical riding through a city of mayhem, sleek, fast, and lethal. The bike is just an extension of her, silent, surgical, and uncatchable. With the addition of the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes with a haunting new identity, often seen fleeing or charging on a Harley V-Rod or similar custom cruiser. He rides not to chase, but to escape. A ghost on chrome, haunted by orders he never gave. Across timelessness, across studios, across every multiverse, when the dust clears, when the hero steps out of the shadows, they often do it on a Harley. New Marvel movie came out, Thunderbolts. Features a Harley-Davidson Pan American ST. Pretty cool.
This is Blue Leader to Blue Bikes. Run these guys into your jet walls. Copy, Blue Leader. Copy, Blue Leader. This is Gold 1.
Tron didn't just show us motorcycles, it reimagined them. The light cycle became an instant icon. Sleek, surreal, pure velocity rendered in neon. In 1982, it turned the motorcycle into something more. A digital avatar of speed, precision, and control. A weapon of light in a world of darkness. By Tron Legacy, the vision evolved into cinematic art. The bike wasn't just futuristic, it was philosophy digitized, man and machine fused in motion. It influenced everything, design, gaming, fashion, and still echoes in how we imagine the future of riding today. And our other honorable mention, Terminator 2 didn't just redefine action cinema, it redefined what it meant to ride. The 1991 Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, a silver and muscular bike, became an instant icon the moment the T800 straddled it. No helmet, no fear, just chrome, leather, and machine. This wasn't a bike for outlaws. This was a guardian, a protector from the future, riding in on an American steel to save the kid, maybe the world. After the film hit theaters, Harley dealerships saw a spike in demand. Everyone wanted that bike, and to this day, the Fat Boy remains one of the most beloved and collectible Harleys ever made. Not just because of its design, but because of what it represents on the screen. Strength, redemption, and the ride that rewrote destiny. In the end, the motorcycle on screen is never just a machine. It's a mirror, a reflection of who we are, who we were, and who we hope to become. It's the outlaw's cry for freedom, the hero's symbol of purpose, the loner's path to self-discovery. From the silent reels to roaring blockbusters, from the choppers of rebellion to the sport bikes of speed-drenched ambition, motorcycles have carved their place not just in cinema, but in the very mythology of modern life. They remind us that the journey matters more than the destination. That the road's like a good story, and is always winding and uncertain. It's always worth riding, because somewhere between throttle and thought, between dust and dream, the motorcycle became more than metal. It became meaning. This has been Bleek Rides. This has been a brief analysis on the history of motorcycles in cinema. If you like this, you're probably a fan of documentaries. But either way, if you take a moment to hit that like button, it really helps the channel out. If you want to see more from me and what I have to offer here on Bleek Rides, please go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it means the world to me. If you want to stay up to date on all things Bleek Rides, hit that bell, man. Come on and join the ride. With that, everybody, I'll leave you. saying go check out a good film, and